What's up guys, it's Joey, and so if you saw yesterday's video, you know I'm actually in quarantine right now, so I'm not actually traveling around or doing anything, but I'm in the safety of my room right now, just hanging out, doing my little self-isolation, coming back from New Zealand. But I still wanted to talk to you guys and take you on a little bit of adventure, so we're gonna do one back from my past. Today we're gonna talk about my first time. Wait, you know we're talking about my first time traveling, right? Before we actually get there, a little bit of background. Up until my freshman year of college, I was actually a pretty sheltered kid. I mean, I had been on little trips and things like that, but my parents would never really let me travel alone anywhere, definitely not out of the country. So I was in my first semester of college and I was sitting in one of my classes, and it was probably the first month, maybe month and a half, and a guy ran in and he was actually wearing this exact shirt right here. Started yelling at our class about this like amazing research opportunity to go travel over to Cambodia. So I was sitting there, little freshman me. I got in my head that I was just gonna apply anyway. See if I got in. I wasn't gonna tell anybody. So this was in August, my first semester. And I applied and I did the whole application thing. I met with them, I did the interview and things like that. And I actually got accepted for a program in May. So then I had to finally tell my parents like, hey, I'm gonna go to Cambodia for 3 weeks. Cool. I mean, I was still 17 at this point, and I guess they could have said no, but I was kind of like, I did this, I got accepted, it's a great opportunity, I'm gonna love to go. So first thing my mom did was like Google all about it and like, I got it, it's gonna be okay. And it was a lot of just convincing them that I was gonna be fine doing this. At the end of May, I got on this plane and went to the other side of the world and went to Cambodia. I arrived probably 8 or 9 o'clock at night, so it was pretty dark, and I arrived in Phnom Penh, the capital of Cambodia, and it was my first impression, it was so hot and so humid. And that's coming from somebody who lives in Florida. I mean, it was like walk out of the airport and just drenched in sweat. Everything was so different. Coming from America, we don't get much exposure to the outside world. I mean, everything is like, people speak English here. People talk and act a certain kind of way. You're used to seeing the same things despite what state you're in. So going over there and instantly seeing different types of people, a language I'd never even heard about before, the differences in like buildings and automobiles and everything was just wow. Very, very drastic just from the first seconds. So to give you a little idea of what we were actually going to be doing during this research thing, we were going out to this island off the coast of Cambodia that had no Western contact with anybody before. They were a fishing village, but the reefs around them had been overfished, so there weren't enough fish to sustain them or the surrounding communities. So what we were doing, since those reefs had kind of been destroyed, we were setting up these artificial reef pods underwater. So we were going to be making them on land and then diving every day, putting them underwater, and then finding little pieces of coral to attach to them and cleaning them and doing stuff like that to finally like make another reef that would bring the fish back and sustain this village in the future. And in our downtime, we'd be on the island in that community. So there was an incinerator we were going to be help finishing up and use, and then making a playground for the school. And then being in the English classes, there were some for some kids and then also for the adults on the island. And a cool fact about the island actually was that the show I've always wanted to be on, Survivor, was filmed there the year after I was on this island. So it was season 31, I think it was filmed on Koh Rong, the actual island I was on, a year after I was on it. So I did it first. Anyways, back to the story. So we got there that night, and then the next morning we were all still pretty jet lagged, but we got in this van and traveled 4 hours from the capital over to the coast to then hop on this boat that took us another 2 or 3 hours out to the island. It's very different traveling there than it would be back here because one, like the roads are just kind of crazy. There's no real lines or anything. There's bikes going everywhere and people just walking across the street everywhere, and like, I don't know, it's like a river of bikes. And then the boat we took was just a fishing boat, so it was going super slow and like the waves are just going crazy. And I mean, it was an experience for sure just getting there. Finally got to the island, and the village was set up half on the water, half on the island. So there was these docks that a lot of the houses would sit on, and then they'd have walkways in between, and then they would go up the mountain. That's where like the school and stuff like that was going to be actually on the island, and some of the people lived up there. Most of the people lived out over the water because that's where their boats were, since it was a fishing village, and then also like for the ease of a bathroom, honestly. I mean, so after we met everybody, we put our stuff down in our little hut, and it was like girls on one side and guys on the other. But we quickly learned like the hut wasn't kind of fully built, and the walls, like the roof was up here and the walls were only like to here. We learned that because there was a bat on their side that would just started flying over between the two rooms because like the walls didn't go all the way to the ceiling. And then we had our little bug nets underneath our huts. At first you think that's kind of weird, but then like that becomes your best friend at night. I mean, once you go in your bug net, you're kind of like safe from everything else. And you want that, especially if it's your first time being in a country like that. Like between all the different critters and stuff, a bug net is super nice to have. So all of us in those first couple days became so close. And that's one thing I found from traveling, is that every time you're kind of like thrown into this new unique situation with the people around you, that just kind of opens up the door for really fast and close friendships, because everybody's in this new unique situation. You kind of left everything from before like behind, and you're just enjoying this experience with the people around you. And so that always leads to something just strong right from the get-go, which I've always really loved about traveling. And I found it out on this first trip. So we started our first few days getting certified in diving, because I mean, we had to actually be divers to be down there and setting up all this stuff. I and a couple others had dove before, but most of the group hadn't. So a couple of them got their open water certification, and a couple of them with me got our advanced certification. Since this isn't like a tourist dive spot at all, the water there is not that clear. I mean, it's not been a scouted out site to like go and look at fish and stuff. So the water was actually pretty murky, and it was really hard to see. And that made our diving certificates, like getting my advanced certification, really interesting. For example, on my navigation one, sometimes you do it where you have to make this box, but you can kind of see everything while you're doing it. But for me, like, we're doing it and looking at the compass, and you can't even see, like, I couldn't see the end of my arm in front of my face because it was so bad. The conditions were awful, but it made it really, really fun to like try to do these little tasks underwater and be doing this. And I don't know, I think it's made me like a really good diver that I had to do that in an area that was not, you're not supposed to dive there. I mean, there was nothing to actually like see and look at. The water wasn't clear, there was no fish. And then we started building these reef pods. So the pods were basically like a miniature jungle gym made out of these wires, these metal wires, that then we would like sand down so that they didn't have any rust on them, and then put this gel on them that coated it so it would be okay in the salt water for years. I don't really know what that was. Then we'd attach these cement blocks to the bottom so that it wouldn't get disturbed by the tides and things like that. So that's what we would do above ground, and then we'd put them on the boat and take them and then drop them into the water, dive down, set them all up. Really cool actually getting to work on a task underwater, because a lot of time while you're diving, like you've seen in the videos before, you're just kind of looking at fish, and it's also very fun. But it was interesting to have a real purpose down there. Once we had the pod set up, the next round was like to go collect corals. So we went to this little patch of sand that had tiny little, it was like just sand, but then tiny little rocks, and on some of the rocks would have coral fragments. So we would take those little, like, they were like that big or so, and we would attach them to the intersections of the wires all across it. So this big jungle gym, and we would attach it to all the corners. And that's what we set up as like the basis for the thing to grow and expand over that. And that was kind of the primary job that we had there. And then on addition to that, we would clean the old pods that other groups had set up from years before. So they had been covered in seaweed and things. So we'd clean them off and then let the coral grow. And it was really cool to see like the progression of it, because you would see a pod from like a year ago, and like the coral would be a little bit bigger, there'd be a few fish, or a pod from 2 years ago, and there'd be more coral and like just tons of fish around those ones. You could actually physically see the impact it was making, and that the fish were coming back to be around these things. So outside of the diving, we spent our time on a lot on the different projects that we had going around the communities. We were setting up this wall around the playground because the monsoon season was coming, and with the rain, like all the sand was washing out, so we were building this little wall around it to kind of keep it all together. Yeah, other than that, we were playing a lot of card games. We played so much cards. And then a lot of pool. Also, they had this little pool table underneath where we were living. And then every night we would take this trail like up past the hill and over to the other side, and there was this beach on the other side. And we would go there literally every single night, and it was one of the coolest places I think I've ever been anywhere in my life, because the bioluminescence in that water was insane. Like, I've seen bioluminescence in like Thailand and other places in Australia. It has little specks every now and then, but this was like you touch the water and like everything glows, or like you splash and like everything glows. And it was so bright and so like, I don't know, just out of this world. It was like from Avatar.
Emitting light in breathtaking patterns.
So we spent every single night there at that beach, swimming around the water. We talk, we set up some fires on the sand. Once the sun goes down, I mean, we're out on this island, there's no electricity. So that's when we would go out to the ocean, because there's not much else you can do. There's no like TV or internet or anything like that. So we were out there, and I don't know, it was just, those were some of my most fun nights, was out there. And then one of the nights, I think it was one of our last nights, we decided for some reason, I don't know who decided this, but to go skinny dipping out there, since we were like, oh, we're in Cambodia, it would be so much fun. So we were like, okay, so we all went. And that's when the bioluminescence was like not the best, because like I said, everything lights up, like everything. So there was no hiding really anything. And we were like, wow, this was not a good idea, because you could see everything. And it was, yeah. Anyways, so we did have weekends off, so we were only diving during the week, and then on the weekends we got to do whatever we want, and there was this little resort town on the other side of the island, so we would take this boat and go all the way around, and it took about an hour, I think, to get all the way to the other side of the island. But once we got there, we kind of got to enjoy ourselves, and that was a little bit more like what you would expect of like an island vacation. I mean, there was a lot of like bars and like different boats and activities and things to do over there. We got there, we made friends with these two bartenders, and they kind of like facilitated the night for us, which was very, very fun. I remember one of their names. I don't remember the other guy, but one of them I remember it distinctly because his name was Joe and he's from the Netherlands, which is important because my best friend is named Joe and he's in the Netherlands right now. So I was like, gonna remember that one. So one of my other favorite things is also, like I mentioned, it was monsoon season towards the end of our trip, was the beginning of it. And so randomly while we were out on the boats diving or like doing some work up on the playground or something, it would just start downpour rain. And I'm from Florida, so we're used to hurricanes and stuff, but this didn't have like the lightning and the thunder of the hurricanes, but it's just like so much rain. It deafens, you can't hear because it's just rain all around you, and it's so intense and so hard. Hide out under the boat places or put tarps up trying to get away from it, or just fully embrace it and go running in the rain and singing and dancing with the kids and stuff. So I don't know, I just loved the simplicity of my time on that island. I mean, everything was so relaxed, and we still were doing so much every day, but there's so much more time in the day when you're taken away from your phones and the internet and everything like that. That was the first time I'd really experienced that, and I think that's one of the things I like most about traveling, is you kind of get taken out of the like fast-paced world, and you just kind of get to experience and you get to live whatever you're doing in that moment. You become very, very present. And I just can't express how much like fun it is to be just so far out of your comfort zone, but along with other people, that everybody's just kind of enjoying themselves because it's all new and it's all crazy and it's all just an adventure. So after a little over 2 weeks, our time on the island came to an end and we had to say goodbye to everybody, which was super sad. But then we got another couple days back in the capital to just kind of hang out, to go see some of the temples, explore around the capital city, and then also get to shop around a little bit. Jane told us, like, whatever price they told you, don't take it. It's probably like 5 times too high. So we challenged ourselves to like barter down to get the best deals around the market and stuff. So I was really proud of 2 different things that I got there, and I actually still have them both with me. The first was a Beats pill. I got this, the guy wanted $75 for it. Okay, I don't even know if this is legit. It could be a knockoff. I don't know what it is. That's still pretty cheap for it, but I was like, no, what about $10? And he was like, kind of upset, and he was like, no, it's a Beats pill, like it's legit. You like, I gotta have 75. And I was like, $10. And he was like, okay, $25. And I was like, what? He like cut his price in a third, and I was like, nope, $10. So we ended up agreeing on $12. That's as low as he would go. And I was really, really proud of this thing because once I plugged it in, it actually worked really well, and I've used it for the past forever. I mean, this is the speaker I've used now for like 6 years, and it's been fantastic. The other thing was this pair of elephant pants. Everybody wanted like $6 for them, but we ended up, me and the girl Kelsey, whose footage you've been seeing, and this other guy Jared, we ended up getting 3 pairs for $6, so we each paid $2, which I was pretty happy about. Wait, I just had to check that math real quick that I said that right. That's kind of how we spent our last couple days there, and then eventually it was time to go, and that's when it was just like, it's super sad. I mean, you say a lot of goodbyes traveling, and wow, like, I just had this amazing, absolutely amazing experience with these people. Now I've got to say goodbye and like kind of go back to my normal life. It's really sad saying goodbye, but then it's also really cool just having these experiences with people all over the place. And that's one of my favorite parts about traveling, is that different people, you can look back on different times in your life and see what you were doing and seeing like, I don't know, just this incredible adventure unfold and then have it forever with these people, which is really, really cool. Then I got on the plane and went back home to my parents, and they of course were super excited to see me. But since then, I mean, it's been pretty easy traveling without their concern. I mean, they kind of fully trust me now, and like, I just kind of had to jump in and go all the way to the other side of the world, go to a third world country, live out on an island, and then make it back okay. And after that, they're kind of like, okay, we trust you, you got this, like it's okay. I just had to jump all the way in, not ease them in at all, just like break them in quick that this was gonna happen, and like, sorry about it, but it's just, it is what it is now. So that's gonna be it for this video. I just want to share this because it's a really cool memory for me that I wanted to share with you guys and take part in, and just kind of so you know a little bit of my backstory of what kind of got me started in this direction that I've been. And also I wanted to hopefully inspire any of you guys that are maybe on the edge of like, you really want to travel, you really want to do something, but aren't sure if it's gonna work out or what's gonna happen, or fears about traveling or anything like that. Like, trust me, I really think traveling is one of the best ways to like educate yourself about the world, and I just think it's really, really important that everybody takes part in that if they want to. I don't want anybody holding themselves back from that. So yeah, just want to share it in case you need that last little push. Go for it, do it. So yeah, leave a like and comment down below what your first travel experience was, or if you haven't been on one yet, what you hope it to be. And yeah, see you next time. Goodbye.
No, you're not filming me laugh. Stop.